Hi folks, part 2 of our totes. Hopefully you've gotten up to this part. We're going to be doing the lining, the pockets, we're putting the handles on. So this is part 2 of our 2 parts for making our quilted lined hard bottom tote bags. So hopefully you've been enjoying the tutorial so far, and follow me along to the end and you'll have made yourself a lovely tote bag. Okay, part 2 of our tote bags. I promised you that we're going to iron our bag, having turned it inside out. And what I do is I just take my iron and I just sort of stick it in there. This is just to freshen it up because it's been through the wars. You've turned it inside out. We've been working with it a lot. I just stitch it from. I just press it from the inside. Just make it nice. Just whoops, press it there, and then I just go back. It's really a nice sturdy bag, as you can see. I mean, this isn't like a little floppy tote. The way it's constructed, I really like it. I like sturdy things. So there's my lovely sturdy bag. Now my next step, what I was going to be doing, I'm going to be showing you just how I'm going to attach, how I actually make a self tie, a self handle. I'm not going to put it on. I'm actually going to be attaching my handles, my pre-bought handles, with little tabs. What I've done is I've just taken a piece about 2.5 inches wide, and I've stitched down the whole side of it there. I've put a safety pin in, and I'm just going to turn it inside out now. And this is going to just, it's just a length. I don't know. I just grabbed a length because I want pieces. I want the pieces about, I don't know, 4.5 inches. I'll just see. I'll show you what I'm going to be doing. But right now, I'm just going to be turning this inside out, this piece. And actually, this is how you, I'll show you with this, how you would attach a handle. Oh yeah, I can do that. Just push that along. Hopefully I'm in the frame there. With your safety pin, pull it there, and then just pull it right along, turning it inside out. There you go. So if you are doing a, these are just my tabs. I made these a bit smaller than the ones on my prototypes because I quite like the small ones. I'm putting the seam, sort of messing about with my fingers, putting the seam in the middle, so that'll be the middle of the back of my little tabs here. But for argument's sake, just pretend this is the handle. You would construct it, the handle of your, what's it called, handles? Yeah, handle. Your handle on a handbag? Yeah, your handles. Your straps. What am I talking about? Handles. Your handbag straps. Handles. That's funny. So your straps to your handbag might be that long. But what you would do, say here's your strap. Okay, this is how you end up. You want your bag to look, right? You're making a tote bag, right? And there's your strap. Okay. Well, what you would do is you make this a bit wider, however long you want. And what you want to do is you would attach, I would say this right between this is the middle, this 5-inch square is the middle right there, right? So right sort of the next one, not quite in the middle over there, but maybe just sort of a 1/2 inch in there. Now what you want to do is, if you're using a fabric strap, you want this seam side up, facing you, making sure you have no twists in it, and then you would stitch it, having pinned it, you would stitch it across. Now let me actually let me grab my pins and I'll show you if this is what you desire. So your seam is up, and then there, when we attach our lining, there is your handle, your strap, your strap. So it would be wider, however long you want it. I'm making my tabs the same fabric as my bottom. So there you go. There would be your tote bag handle. Remember to have it so that it's when you go to have it, it's nice. It's not twisted or anything. Now I'm going to be attaching my handles, my straps, my handbag handles. Excuse me, I've got to go get them. I'm going to be let me see here. Get this out of the packaging. I'm going to be using this piece of this piece of fabric here. Let me just grab a pair of scissors. And I'll be cutting, I just cut that to length. I'll be attaching my handles just like I showed you how I was going to do it with this. I'm using a brown fake brown. So I want, see, this is the wrong side. You see, that's like a stitch there, like a stitching. So I'm going to be making sure that the sides are like that, so that when I have them on, my handle makes sense. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take a piece, let's start out about this long. Yeah, I like that. And then I'm just going to, the seam side up, I'm going to thread all that through my ring. I'm going to attach it like that, the exact same place that we would have done your other handles. So make sure this is proper. This is right. Yeah, my handle makes sense. So it was about. You might want to measure them against each other. I'm pretty good. I can. It's about 4 inches, I'd say. Just make sure your seam's on the inside, and then I'm about ½ an inch away from that seam there. And I'm going to pin that. And then there, I like that look, bringing the little bit of color from the bottom of my bag up to there. Plus it makes my handle, my straps a little bit longer. So I'm going to be doing that on both sides. There's the right, oh no, I've twisted it. Yeah, look at that, I twisted it. So I got to fix that. So anyway, I'm going to fix that because I've twisted it. Look at that. Yeah, so make sure, there you go, that you're, yep, and then you want to do it that way, so that your handles aren't twisted. Make sure before you start stitching anything, and you're going to want to, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, folks? You're not part of my teaching if you don't reinforce. You're going to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth when you stitch that. And don't stitch it down here, stitch it up here, because then we're going to attach the lining. We're going to attach the lining there. Straighten them all up. You're going to attach the lining, but you just want to go back and forth, so your handles never, ever, ever come out. Oh, it's a bit screwed up. But I'll do that properly, and I'll do the other one. But make sure you have the wrong side of your handle, your seam, if you're going to be doing your fabric strap, up, if you can understand. So when you go to have it properly, it's done. Oh, geez, it just fell. It just fell apart. Anyway, do as I say, don't do as I do. No, it'll work out. It'll work out, folks. Oh, geez. Okay, over here, and pin it. See, this is what I get for using pins. I don't usually use pins. Okay, so there you go. I'm going to stitch this now. So I showed you how I was going to attach my handles, which again is the right sides, the wrong sides up, and my little tabs that I have here. Again, this middle seam I'm putting together to attach my tabs. Now, if you've noticed, it's very important, very imperative that if you do have a free arm on your sewing machine, that you utilize it at this stage, because it's very difficult to actually stitch around here on this curve, this circle here, without the free arm. Most machines have the free arm attachment. If not, you're just going to have to sort of shove it. My machine comes with an actual extension table. Most of yours does. But I find it very easy to use the free arm attachment. Now I'm attaching my, try to keep my fingers out of the way, I'm attaching my tabs here. And as I was saying, I'm just going to go back and forth. I'm the queen of reinforcing, as you know. I've gone back and forth maybe 6 or 7 times to keep that tab from coming off ever. So that's that way. So then I'm going to make sure that my handle, make sure that your handle, the reverse side is where you want it. And then I take my little tab and I threadle it through. This is if you're using the purchased handles, remember. And then I'm wanting it just about 1/2 inch or so away from that center charm square. So here, I'll again just start stitching. Back stitch, back stitch, back stitch. My straps will never ever come off. So I've done all 4 sides, my two handles, and look, boy oh boy, is it looking like a bag. So now I'm going to be showing you how I'm going to be doing the lining and the pocket for the lining. So for my pocket, what I've just done is I've just grabbed 2 charm squares that match my my fabric line here. I'm just going to stitch them together. That's not the size they're going to be. I'll show you what I do. Just to make it a little bit more interesting. You could literally actually do this just with 1 piece of fabric if you wish. I just think it's a little bit more interesting. Just finger press that. I have a piece of scrap. It looks a little bit, I like the width of it, maybe just a little bit less of that size. I don't know, what's that, about 6 by 3.5, 4 inches. That's what the size I like my pocket. I think I have this at the top. What I will do is, on this side, no real, like I said, no real rhyme or reason. I'll just start here, because we need a turning. This will be the top of my pocket here. So, again, it's just sort of my way of doing this. A little bit weird, but this will be the top of my pocket. This is the back of the lining. This will be the side. I want to turn it here. Actually, when you go to turn something and you leave your opening, what you want to do is you want to go to that line. I didn't do it over here. I will go back. And actually go back and forth a couple of stitches. And then when you go, doesn't look like it makes a lot of sense now. But then when you actually go to turn it inside out, your seam will already have been sort of inside. I'll show you what I mean when this is done. Just those few bites of fabric there. So it's sort of weird, but bear with me. Cutting off my corners. Did I catch that? I didn't catch. This was a little bit sort of messed up there. Let me make it a little wider. There we go. It's a bit straighter now. I didn't make it real straight. That's a bit better. Now I'm just going to turn it inside out. And also, if you do it those few little stitches, you don't have the stress on that seam when you're turning it inside out. I'm sure you've all known about that stress, and your stitches start to come apart. So you just want to go to the top corner, your bottom corner, and pull your points out. That's a cute little pocket. Just a little bit interesting. I'll push those corners out. Yeah, like that. hold a bunch of keys or a small phone. And then when I'm stitching it to my lining, then you see how that just turns right under there? Because I did that, it just turns right under. And you can just top stitch right along there. So I'm going to push my points out, and then I'll be showing you how I stitch this to my actual lining. So now I've made my pocket, and what I've actually grabbed is a wrinkled old piece of the iron-on interfacing, and I'll show you what I do with that. I have my lining, which is my 14 by 28 inch piece of fabric here. Now, what you want to do is you want to take your lining fabric. Yeah, hopefully, yes, I'm in my frame. You want to take your lining fabric, and you want to line your pocket about 3 or 4 inches down from the center. You can eyeball it, or if you need to mark it on either side. And that's, do I want it? Yeah, I like that. Or maybe I'll do it that way. Yeah, I'll do it that way because my opening is right here. So I like that. So I'm gonna just put that down there, and I actually will pin this. Aren't you proud of me? Go get my pins. And what I want to do is, I'm all about reinforcing stuff so it doesn't rip and it doesn't come apart. What I'm going to do is with my iron-on interfacing, you could do it with a piece of batting, you could do it even with an extra hunk of fabric, it doesn't really matter. But with my iron-on interfacing, this is literally a scrap. I'm just going to turn it, this is where I want my pocket to be right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place that right where my pocket is going to be stitched, making sure that when I do my stitching, this piece of interfacing is going to be catching on my pocket edge, my top stitching there. Why I do that is I just reinforce it. I just reinforce the lining. So a lot of the your stress is going to be on this seam here, right here, this top stitching, where you're going to be putting your pencils or your keys or whatever. And I just feel that if it's just on one layer of fabric, it has more chance of ripping. It may or may not. But I just think, I always just use a little bit of iron-on interfacing, and then when I go to I'll go to stitch this on, having stitched it through this iron-on interfacing, and then I'll just go and I'll iron the iron-on interfacing. And it just makes this a little bit stronger. So I'm just going to go and I'm just going to do one lot of stitching, catching my turned-in edge here, just carefully along the edge, and really reinforcing this. And then we have our nice pocket there. So I've stitched my pocket onto my lining, but I want to show you what happened. I can't believe it. As I was cutting, I made a mistake. Let me see if it's in frame. It's not. Hold on. And on this bottom corner, I actually cut, I don't know how I did it, about 1.5 inches boo-boo. So I tried to put some iron-on interfacing, the same that I attached to the backing. Oh, here we go. To the back of my pattern to hold the fabric together. I think this will just be outside the seam, so it will show this little mistake I made. And then I went back with a zigzag stitch, which looks terrible. So what I'm proposing to do is I cut a piece of fabric out, and this, I'm going to try to put a little patch. I hope it works. On my on the backing here. What I'll do, is that how I do it? Yeah. Oh no, wait a second. How do I do this? Oh yeah. So that's right. That's right. This stuff, excuse me, this stuff is called Steam-A-Seam. It's a double stick. Right in here? Yeah, it's a double stick light fusible web. So light. It fuses one piece of fabric to another. Now I want to cover up my mistake here. If you can see, Try to go slow. If you can see, I really screwed that up. And that is holding that piece, that slice together. It might be hidden in the seam, but it might not. So what I've done is I've just cut a square, just a fabric, and I've just, as you can see, I've taken the paper, 2 pieces of paper off. It's sticky on this side, and then it's sticky on the other side, so it's holding that piece. And I'll just trim this. I'm just going to put that over that corner right there. It's the same fabric. Hopefully you can see it. And it will fuse when I go to iron it. It already has, actually. It's almost like a glue. It will fuse this little piece to the lining. You won't see that. I'm just going to stitch a little, just a straight stitch. My zigzag stitch got messed up. So this piece, it becomes that piece of fabric. It's raw edge. Oh, it's on the inside, but I messed up. I didn't like that. So as I said, it just is a little bit outside my seam. So anyway, so I don't have that cut. This is my little jerry-rigged way of finishing, mending my mistake. I cut it. I don't know how I cut that accidentally, but that's what I'll do. Is I'm just going to go along and I'm just going to stitch this piece on, and it's really affixed on. This is for like applique. It's really good stuff. So if once we go, I'll show you how we can applique. This is the stuff you'll use. This is lightweight. It makes it really soft. It's yeah, fusible for applique. So I'm sort of appliquing over my mistake. So I'm just going to go stitch that. I'm just going to go iron that. But what I want to show you now, very simply and very quickly, what we're going to be doing is, this is my pocket. This is the top edge of our lining. All we want to do is, once I fix my little corner here, all you're going to want to do with your lining is you're going to bring up your edges. And, oops, there's a thread. You know me and my threads. And all we're going to do is we're going to stitch from this line all the way down to there. That's it. Maybe about ½ an inch. And then I go down maybe 2 or 3 times on each side of our lining. So I'm going to just fix my little mistake here, which you won't have made. And then I'm just going to stitch my lining together. So I've stitched my side pieces of my lining together. I've double stitched it, and I'm quite pleased with my little repair that I have made on the inside of my lining. I'm a little bit bummed, but I'm okay with it. It's going to show a little bit, but it's okay. I'm pleased with my repair. So what we want to do now, just like we did to make remember we want to make the box corners. I've trimmed off the corner of my bottom point right here. And then you're just going to go into the bottom, just like we did on the handbag. Put your finger, the very top, roll that seam over to the middle, as it were, and then right across, just like we did the bag, right across, we're going to make a stitching line to make the bag part of the bottom part of our bag. So this seam is just right in the middle. You can feel it. Just pushing it to one side, and we're going to stitch from there to there about 1 inch down. I'm going to do that on each side to create the box bottom of our lining. So I've made my my boxed corners here. And another way to actually, if you're a little bit confused about this process here, is you want to, like I did, you want to like perhaps iron the bottom of your lining bag, okay? And then when you actually go to do your point, when you put your finger in, this seam here just can line up right with your fold line, so you know that you're getting a nice even box across the bottom of your bag. Do you see that? This seam here is right in line with that fold of your bag. So there are those two that I've done, but I do hope, and I just cut these right off as we did to eliminate the bulk. But now, confession time, I messed up. I do hope hopefully I've addressed this in some captions I've put on when I edit this video. I really messed up. I completely forgot that you're not supposed to stitch all the way down. We need an opening for our lining. So I have just utilized my handy dandy seam ripper, and I've made quite a large, I had to cut away 2 lots of stitching. Me and my reinforcing comes back to haunt me, but that's okay. What I've done is I've opened up, so when you go to sew your lining together, your bag, one down side, one down the other, the fold, but then I leave quite a large opening because we have to pull the entire bag through, maybe a 6-inch opening. Do you see that? I've left a big opening. Now, what I was explaining is if you stitch down here, and then you want to come stitch across and reinforce that. And again, the same down here. You want to stitch across off the seam and then down your seam there. That's because when you go to turn, your edges are already turned in. It's just a little trick to make a nice edge instead of having to sort of hold it and pin it when you go to top stitch it. So again, I apologize. I messed up. You know me, I don't edit things out. I messed up. It's funny, I'm not tired or anything. I just messed up. I completely forgot. So hopefully I will have addressed that if you're following it view by view, because you'll have sewed the sides together. Don't do that. Don't do as I did. So you just want to go down about 4 inches or so, leave a large gap, and then do your bottoms. And then I'm going to show you how we're going to put it actually with our bag now. We have our bag sewn together with our opening here. And by all means, at this point, you can go back and really iron it really nice, because you won't get a chance to iron your lining to make it really nice. So I go in there with my iron. I go on and don't turn it right side out yet, because that's our next process. But before we attach our lining, I'm going to put my piece of elastic, or you may have whatever. I use a piece of, this is a hair tie. I took it out of my hair. If you can, hopefully you can see that. I'm just using a black one because I'm using like a dark brown, almost black button on this. So I'll just add, it's about a length of about 2 inches maybe, that I'll just stitch to the very top center. Having put the edges together, reinforce. So if you have a front and a back, actually I like this as the front. So yeah, I like this bit myself as the front of my bag. I like these charm squares a little bit better. So what I want to do is I want to put the elastic over that way. So when I sew my button on, the button will be sewn here. So what I'll do is, you want to put your elastic this way. If you, by all means, you want to get a cord elastic. You can use, or you don't have to have the elastic in the button, but I quite like that. As I said, I'm just going to go, hopefully you can see this, and I'm just going to hold these edges together, and right in the middle, stitch. So there's my loop. So when it goes over, my final thing is sewing my button on. And actually this line right here, stitching, is a nice guide line to put your elastic on. So now you can see that I've attached my elastic, and it's going to be pulling my button is going to be affixed there, and that's how the top is going to be closed. So now what we want to do is I want to attach my lining to my bag. I'm just trying to see if I'm in the frame here. Yeah. So actually, let me just sort of put this up. Pardon me. Maybe we can see that a little bit better. So what you want to do is you want to, again, figure out where you want your pocket, whether you want your pocket in the middle, it doesn't really matter. But with your bag, just as it is, with your straps hanging down on the front and the back, and your lining inside out, what you want to do is you want to insert your bag into the lining, and you want to shove your handles into the bag lining, and your side seams, shove your handles down. You don't want to catch them. Your side seams should match pretty good. So my side seams and my bag match pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come along, excuse me again, I'm going to come along and I'm going to start pinning along the very top edge. I'm just going to pin the top edge, matching the tops together. And remember, we trimmed off that batting, so it's a nice even top, the even top of your lining. And you want to make sure that your little tabs, or your straps are nice and everything is tucked in to here. You're not catching anything. And then you're going to match your side seams, and you're not catching. You're sewing through batting, but you're not catching you're not catching the stiffening interfacing, because remember, we cut that away. You don't want to be catching that stiffening interfacing. So you're just going to come along, and again, make sure, like I have my tabs, I want my tabs to be nice and even and straight, and I'm just going to make sure my handles are nice and tucked in. I'm just going to stitch right along there. It's about 1/2 inch the way we've constructed it. You're not going to catch the inside of your interfacing here. You're just going to be outside of that interfacing. And again, this area you can go around one or two times, because this is the area where I messed up, where we're going to turn our bag inside out, and we're almost done our bag. Like, look at that! Just a few more things. So you just want to go ahead and you want to stitch this all the way around, maybe a couple times to make it nice and sturdy. Being real careful with either your straps or your tabs for your purchased thing, and just your side seams match up, and there's the top of the lining of your bag. I just wanted to show you that I'm stitching with my free arm. Again, very easy to get all the way around into the bulk of this top seam. But just a very important point, I just had to readjust my lining. When you put your lining inside, or when you put your bag inside your lining, you want to make sure that your lining is the same exact size. By sewing or by stitching or by quilting, it may not be. It may just be a little bit. Mine was about 1/2 inch too big, so I just literally came along and I just took my lining top in, and I just eased it into that seam. So I've already done, because you want your lining. I actually have a little pucker on the top. I'm fine with that. But like you want your lining to fairly be able to fit. I really have to smash this under the needle here. I have another little tuck. If you want to do it really perfect, here's my tab. You just want to make sure that your lining fits pretty good. I just have a few tucks because my lining was actually just slightly bigger than my bag, as it will. It's not exactly perfect, all the stitching and all the sewing, but those little minuscule tucks I'm absolutely fine with. And I'll just go around there and I'll just stitch that one more time. So here's my bag, my lining stitched to my bag. Looks pretty good. I just had a few tiny minuscule tucks, and I did have to take my lining in just slightly on the edge. And I'm actually going to do something that I didn't do with my others. I'm going to actually trim away this top seam. I didn't do it on my other ones, and I just want it, maybe I've really reinforced this seam. So I'm just going to come back and I'm going to make that seam literally about 1/4 of an inch, because hopefully it'll work out. Well, if it doesn't, it doesn't. Yeah, I'm just going to take off that bit of top there. Because if I want to go to top stitch this on the outside, I want the lining, well, you'll see what I mean. I want it to turn nicely. Now, this is the exciting part. Our bag's almost done, literally. What you want to do is you want to put your hand inside the hole that you've made, and you want to grab the furthest part. Really, like, grab it hard so there's not a lot of stress on your seam when you're turning it inside out. So you want to sort of grab the whole kit and caboodle into your hand, scrunch it up really big, and then pull that furthest bit out, like the furthest bit you want to just sort of pull out of your opening here, and it just is just makes it a little bit easier to turn inside out. There you go. There you go. And there, hold on. Oh, I stitched my elastic on. So now that's not going anywhere. And there is, my tabs are not going anywhere. My lining, my box bits of my lining. Now at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take this over to my ironing board, and I'm just going to stitch. I'm just going to press. We'll get my handles out of the way. I'm just going to press that. Wherever the seam goes, it goes. I'm just going to press that press my lining because it's gone through the wars here. And then we're going to shove the lining back in. But before we do that, remember what we have to do. We have to close up our hole. And look how nice that edge just goes together because we've done these seams here, if you remember. So I'm literally going to go along. If you want to be perfect, and go and hand stitch this, I think like it's called a ladder stitch, so you don't hardly see it. I'm just going to top stitch right along there and close up that opening. And I'm going to go press my lining, get it really nice, and this top edge, and then I'm going to figure out, I may or may not top stitch this. I'm going to figure out what it looks like when I put it back into my bag. So I'm going to just go along and I'm going to top stitch and press my lining real well. So I've just pressed I've just ironed my bag, my lining real well. I've stitched along there, and now I have my elastic. Now the moment of truth is I'm going to just shove my whole bag lining. I'm going to push my boxed corners into each corner there. I can feel nice. Oh wow. And I end up with this bag here, but oh, look at that, how pretty. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back and I'm going to actually I'm going to actually top stitch my lining. I'm going to do it from the outside. I'm going to just make sure this, finger press this all the way around, and I'm just going to top stitch right along the top edge of my lining of my bag, having pushed my lining right inside. And again, I can go in and after I do that, I can press it. I can go in and I can press it real well. And then what I've done, and I want to show you the finishing, I'll top stitch that, and our bag is done except for the bottom. Now what I've done is I had shown you my broken mat, and I've actually made a bottom, a hard bottom for my mat. It was duct taped together. It's pretty good. I like it. So I've rounded the corners of this. I've just cut it with a pair of scissors, an older pair of scissors. Might be slightly wide, but not really. You want to make it so it just fits really nice into that that bottom there. And actually it's a little bit smaller. It's funny. You can mess about with your card or whatever. So I'm taking a piece of my lining fabric, and all I'm doing is I'm going to be making a sleeve, as it were. And I'm going to make it a little longer. Literally, I'm just going, it's just as wide. So it's there. I'm going to make a seam there. I'll cut along here this piece of fabric. And my piece is to about there. But that's going to tuck under. And then I just want my bottom seam. I'll just stitch along here and along here. And then I'll turn it inside out and I'll be able to slot that right in. But I'll show you how I do that. So here is our finished bag, almost finished bag. I'm just going to put my button on. I'll sew my button on. You have a nice guide because that's stitching seam. So my button on, I have top stitched around my bag. Oh, and I just wanted to show you, I have made my sleeve for my hopefully it fits. Yeah, I made my sleeve for my bag bottom. The hard bit, and I'll just make a liar out of me. Just slot that right down. Yeah, there you go. Just slot that down there like that. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to tuck in, almost like a pillowcase. I'm just going to tuck in the top. I'm not even going to stitch it. No one's going to see it. And I've left a good like 2.5, 3 inches. So I'm just going to tuck right down. Right down. And then I'm just going to pop that. Pushing all that lining, smoothing all the lining down. Oh my word, look. I wish you could really see that. It's a little bit dark. Oh, and then I wanted to show you, I have an iPhone with a case on it. And that size pocket, it just, hopefully you can see that. My iPhone fits really nice, even with the case, right inside that pocket. So that was actually, remember I used 2 5-inch squares for my inside pocket, so it was 5 inches. So there's my pocket, there's my top stitching. I'm just going to put my button on. There's my straps, and as I was saying, it's a nice sturdy. It's a bag. It's not a floppy tote. And there is your bottom that's nice, and your bottom is lovely and firm. It's not going anywhere. Push that right down. You got your feet on if you're going to use these feet to protect your tote from the dirty floor. Yeah, so I'm just going to sew my button on. You'll have seen it. And if this is just a real sweet little way to make a tote, a present for somebody. Couple hours worth of work. It is a couple hours to do it properly, but I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial and have learned. You know, I've really loved making them. I really thought they were nice. Again, this is a country theme. My others, as I'll have shown, are like a summer theme, a spring theme, I should say. Yeah, so there is my little tote, and I'm thankful that you've had the patience to bear with me and to make your little tote. So I'm just going to go sew my button on. Yeah, I'm going to enjoy my totes. Okay, thanks everybody. See you later. Bye.